doing this morning? I'm Dr. Jones, Chris Jones. I'm the principal here, in case you don't know that or you haven't heard of me or heard that. I know it might be a shocker to some of you. But my job today is just to welcome you. I want to welcome you to this last meeting for your seniors about what the end of the year is going to look like. And thank you for everything. Thank you for everything you've done over the past 4 years. If you've been with us for the past 4 years, and if not, thank you for however many years you've been with us. But you're gonna hear a lot of good information today. I'm sure you've already noticed, but just to reiterate, our Student Support Center is fantastic. We've got counselors that always go the extra mile and help students out, help you out with any questions or concerns or needs you have. So if you have any, please don't hesitate to ask. We've got a fantastic group to help you out. So I'm not going to stand up here and talk to you because they are much more skilled at that than I am. So I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Student Counseling, Ruth Kerrigan.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Being here, I know it's early. Okay. I almost may not be that long, I don't know. We'll see, maybe that'll be it. So first thing I just want to, yeah, you hold it over there.
So first thing I want to do is just review your packet with you, just so that you know what's in here. And if anybody needs a pen, we have some pens. Okay.
Do you know what number she does?
Okay. And inside the packet, on the left-hand side, is the PowerPoint we're going to be using. We printed this a couple days ago. I made a couple changes, so there were an addition or two we're going to talk about. On the right-hand side is the college pay chapters for seniors. It's on the newspaper. And we'll be giving this out to the kids. We're going to be meeting with the kids in English classes, either Monday or Tuesday, so whenever your child has English, and mostly our schedule, that's 3 or 2 days. We'll be delivering a lot of the same information to them that we're giving you today. And there's a lot of, I know with the parent questions, a lot of people were asking for timelines and checklists, so this can help with that. And the free paper behind that is something called our college free sheet, believe it or not, and it's the college transfer request form. We'll be telling you about that a little bit later. And then behind that is some information on the yearbook from Mrs. Marsh. Okay, so if you have any questions, just let us know. And so anyway, so welcome. Great. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just tell you to breathe. Okay, this is a intimidating time.
I'm sorry, let me go. Can't hear back there. Can you use my phone?
We lowered it.
If you, we lowered it. If you just go ahead and talk into it, I'll play with the volume a little bit.
Okay. Better? Okay, good. Thanks. So the first thing I want you to do is just breathe. We know this is a really intimidating time for your kids and for you, and we will get through this together. So that's one of the real messages that we want you to hear from this, is that we will walk with you every step of the way. All of us, I know, have seniors that probably stop and see us almost every day, at least a couple times a week. We have sometimes senior parents that come here or email me all the time. It's okay, we expect it. We know that most of you are not experts at this whole college and post-secondary planning process, but we are, so we're happy to help you with that. And I want to introduce you, first of all, to Caitlin Robershaw. She is, I had this slide originally, it was at the end, but I thought you needed to hear this now. So she's going to talk a little bit about helping your kids deal with stress. She is our school justice counselor, who's going to be working with the seniors.
Hi, good morning. So I just want to introduce myself. Caitlin Robershaw, I'm the justice counselor. I'm going to be working with the seniors this year. I also want you to know that you guys can reach out at any time because this is stressful for everyone, not just the students. And there's nothing that's like too big or small or silly or anything. Like stress affects us all, and your students have had the most incredible and different journey throughout their entire high school career. So this is momentum for them, right? They're going off to do something new and they've overcome so many obstacles, but there's going to be those ups and downs. So please reach out at any time if you're worried about them, if you have questions about anything. There's no wrong question, and I know everyone always says that. So I'm here to help you, to help them with anything anyone needs.
So some of the things that we recommend is that you really listen to your kids, and watch for signs if you see them getting stressed out. What are some of the things that you would look for, Caitlin?
So if their sleeping patterns whether they're not sleeping the same way they used to, too much, too little, their eating habits, maybe they're overeating, maybe they're not eating as much. The friendships, so maybe they're not talking to the same peers that they were talking to before. Please with the social media, do whatever you can to monitor that. That is one of the biggest stressors in terms of harassment, bullying, or students just not being nice to each other sometimes. Even if they're best friends, sometimes they're not nice, and then it gets out everywhere. So social media is a big one. If they're seen withdrawn, or if they don't want to do the same things they normally do, like maybe they usually go to the park and play basketball with their friends, or they play a sport, and they all of a sudden don't want to play it. Just all those little different things you can notice. If their grades start maybe slipping or aren't looking the way they normally look, reach out. Reach out to the teacher, reach out to us, reach out to the school counselor. There could just be a very good explanation for it. Maybe it's just really hard subject matter, or maybe they're just not able to focus the way that they could focus before. So any little thing that you notice that isn't normal, talk to your students. See if they'll talk to you. If not, reach out to me and I can try to talk to them. Either way, but anything you notice that's not normal, have a conversation about it.
And one thing about stress is that and I don't know if there are any procrastinators in the room, but I'm a procrastinator, so I need a deadline to get moving and get things done. And sometimes, the stress of that can actually be helpful. So there's this whole college planning piece is actually going to be really condensed because most of our kids will hear a little bit later about something called early action, and that's usually a November 1 deadline. So there's a lot to do between now and then. It can be stressful, but it can also really get them going. But again, just know that we're here to help you. And we always like to look at this wider one. I don't know if any of you remember Mrs. Garrett. She was school counselor for the older kids, and she retired a couple of years ago. But this was her example. When you think of this college admissions process, very few of us, well, there are a few, I hope Mr. Miller can sit down and do a whole one at one time. Sorry, just makes a lot. But most of us, I'm sorry, Donna, that wasn't very nice, sorry about that. Most of us couldn't do that. You couldn't sit down with a whole watermelon and eat it. You need to slice it up, you need to slice it in half, and then you slice it again, and then you slice it again after that. And that's how I think about this college admissions process, or this post-secondary planning process. It can be overwhelming if you just think of it all at once. There's really a lot of slicing and dicing that goes on, and if you break it down into manageable parts, that's actually very manageable. So, first of all, meeting the school counseling staff. So, I'm Ruth Kerrigan. I have the A and B part of the alphabet for last names. Josh Murphy has C through F, and Josh is here. Oh, he's right in the back. Okay, that's Josh. Courtney Steele has G through L, and she's in the back over here. I don't know who Courtney is. Megan Cunha has M through E, and some of you may have heard that Mrs. Cunha is out. She's out with a family medical issue, and we're hoping that she'll be back sometime in October. But we are actually we hired Lauren Churchson, who will start on Monday. So we'll be working along with her to help your kids. If you have questions, reach out to me if you need to do that. I'm happy to help you with that. But just know that if your child does have a student, the person that we hired has a little experience with the whole college process, and they will be in good hands. And as a team, we work together. We make sure that all of our kids get what they need. And then we have Mr. Motto, Q through Z, part of the alphabet. And that is with the other folks on our staff. Alex Seiden is our adjustment counselor, and this year she's working with grades 9 and 11. Caitlin Robichaud, who you just met, is 10 and 12. We also have a transition room for kids that are hospitalized and coming back who need some extra care and attention. Krista Shine is the adjustment counselor there. And maybe Doskevich is also there. You may see my intern around. He's not here today, but Ricky Hawks is our intern. And then Megan Rivera is our administrative assistant. Megan is wonderful, so if you need to talk to your counselor and they're not available, you might be with a student in a meeting, reach out to Megan and she will help get you what you need. But again, this whole team of people is here to help you and help your students. If your kids need to see us, they can scan this QR code to see us. They're all around the building. They can email, they can just come down to the office as well. One thing that's important for you to do is to follow us and ask your kids to check their email on a regular basis. We do share things by email. We're on Twitter, actually, and on Instagram. And we also, you may read the Panther Press. Dr. Jones is so sad. Hands up. He puts out the Panther Press every Sunday. He was really sad Sunday. But that's where I put everything. So every Friday or Saturday morning, I'm putting all Strategies Paper Press. You can find it on the district website, and it's an easy thing to sign up, but really it's chock full of news for what's happening. There's stuff in there about sports, clubs, activities, and everything that we're doing is in the Paper Press. And then we also have a Google Classroom for our seniors, and parents can't join it, but your kids can, and we post everything in that classroom as well. So today's agenda, we're going to be talking about plans your kids might have. We're going to be looking at some non-college options. To be honest, most of this presentation is about the college piece, but we also understand that there are some kids that's something they want to do, and that's okay too. We will help them with that. Talking about the college search process, some standardized testing, and then into some of the nitty-gritties about what the application process is. Talking about our essay, and then we've already actually covered the strategies for managing senior year. We have something called Kinder Pathways that we just wanted to let you know about. It's basically a comprehensive school counseling curriculum that we've been working with your kids on since 9th grade to build up to this point of being a senior and figuring out what they want to do. So I'm not going to read through everything, but we're in classrooms. The last time I counted up, it was about 90 times over the course of a year that we were in classrooms working with various age kids, doing classroom workshops, lessons, doing interest inventories. So these are all the things that we've been doing all the way through your child's career in high school up until this year to get them to this point. So this isn't the first time I've heard about making a plan to go after high school. That's what we've actually been talking about since really the day that they arrived, as well as when we have them transition into high school as 9th graders. But in terms of making a plan, one of the things that we really want you to know is that we want them to make a plan. One of our missions for the school counseling department is that every kid leaves Whitman Hanson with a plan, but the plans don't have to be the same. Whether it's college or military or trade school, we just want to make sure that they have a reasonable, well thought out plan. And every year, it's different numbers, and our numbers have changed a little bit this year. We have about 70% of our kids go off to a four-year school. This year, it was only about 14% of the two-year. It's usually up in the 20s, 20, 25. We found about 8% that did like trade, apprenticeship, technical type programs. About 2% do military. And we found this year a lot of kids actually went out to work. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, which that's a good plan, but we just want to make sure that they're getting the right types of jobs. So some of the non-college options that our kids do, again, technical trade, there's a school called Southeastern Technical Institute. I don't know if Mrs. Thompson is here, but she actually works there. And it's a great program. One of my kids is an HVAC guy. He went to high school at Southeastern, and they have an adult program. And so for kids that don't want to do college, we recommend a lot of them take a look at it because it's very affordable, it's very good, and it's kind of short term. So they have things like electrician, plumbing, and culinary, and they actually have a practical nursing program, they have medical assistant, I think they have dental assistant, they have a lot of good programs. And again, very affordable. Go for a couple of years and get out and get a job. South Shore Tech, which is our technical school for our area, they're developing some of these programs, but they're in the very infant stages compared to what Southeastern does. They haven't had this developed program for probably 40 or 50 years. We have some kids through apprenticeships. When we do our career fair every year, we make sure that we include some of these careers, and we invite some of the unions to come in to work with our kids that are maybe thinking they'd rather do that. So we realize that some kids, they wanted to go to social work tech, either didn't get in or didn't make that decision then, but we want to help support them as well. Also, we had Brewster Ambulance in for our career fair, which happens every December, and they were actually offering a free EMT program to anybody from Whitman Hanson that signed up. So again, so we support those options for kids. Military, another option. Again, about 2% of our kids will go to the military, and we support that. We usually ask if your kids are thinking of the military that they make sure that they have those meetings with you, because those are important decisions, and sometimes we can get a lot of high pressure to make those decisions. So we always make sure that the parents are part of that decision. We do have a college fair coming up and a post-secondary fair on October 6th. We invited all the military folks to be here, so if that's what your child is thinking about, we're welcome to do that. And then Mr. Mott is our military liaison. So anything you want to add about that, Don?
No, obviously it's a big decision. They don't really talk to the kids till junior or senior year. But I think coming to the fair would be good to meet with some of the reps over at Westgate Mall, some of the Army, the Navy, and the Marines are at the Westgate Mall recruiting office. And then I think a couple of years ago, the Air Force moved over to a facility in Quincy. But there's contacts available if that's information that you're looking for, simply have your child on CPL.
Okay, so we understand that's a very valid option for kids. But again, we want parents to be part of that decision. And then some kids this year, this is I think since COVID, I've really seen this increase is kids saying they want to take a gap year. And that's basically take off a year between the time you leave high school and you make that next step typically to college. And what I would say about that is that it should be purposeful. It shouldn't, just, one of the things, in my prior career before becoming a school counselor, I was a director of admissions at a college in Boston and also director of continuing ed for a while. And what I saw so many people when I was director of continuing ed are people that they thought, well, I'll just take a little bit of time off after high school. And then all of a sudden life gets in the way and they were 40 and 30 and 50 coming back to college for the first time. So you just want kids to make, and that's fine, that's good. But we want our kids to, again, make that purposeful decision about if they want to take a gap year. What are they going to do? Are they going to volunteer? Are they going to get a job and maybe something that would help them define a career interest? But kind of just taking the year off and not doing anything isn't that purposeful plan we'd love them to have. And some things to think about if your kids are going to take a gap year, community colleges can be an answer for them to take some classes. But just know that sometimes once you take one college class, you're now considered a transfer student rather than a first-year student. I was at a program with a panel of college people in Worcester this summer, and BC was there, and they don't take any transfer credit. So they don't take any AP credit. So just you need to know about those types of things when your kids are making that plan. And then again, a lot of kids are going back to work. Our goal is for them to actually have a living wage so that they can get a house, and move on, and get a car, and get their own house at some point. So, and we know that typically those living wages, those good jobs are going to come with some type of training or education. So again, those are just some of the things that our kids do. In terms of making the plan, I'm actually going to turn things over to Mrs. Sealy. She's going to talk about our Naviance program. One question you might get is that are the GPAs updated in Naviance? Despite my very best efforts, not yet. As you may have heard, we had some computer problems this year, and so we're still working on that, but I'm working every day to try to get those updated in.
Thank you so much. And like Mrs. Kerrigan was talking about, we will be in all of the senior English classes on Monday and Tuesday, and we have printed a copy of their transcript, which does have their updated GPA, so they will be able to access that information Monday and Tuesday. They will have that, both their weighted and their unweighted GPA will be right at the top of the transcript. You will see a sample transcript in a little bit, so we can show you exactly where that is. But right now, so we've talked about all the options, but how do I know what option is right for me? When we look at a lot of the different interest inventories that the students took that we were in their classrooms with, that's really when we were trying to help them figure out what is that you want to do, and then how do you get there. So a lot of this information, again, they've already done. Of course, it changes, and life changes, and that's okay. But Naviance is really their electronic portfolio that has all of this information saved, which is really great and helpful for all of us. You guys can have your own access to Naviance. All the kids have, obviously, their own access, and then we do too. So we'll just look at our Pat Panther, who's very good student here. Just to try to give you a quick overview of where to find that information and how to use that information. When we submit college documents, so we submit through Naviance. This is a program that we do use. All their transcripts, letters of recommendation, we upload them in here. You cannot see them. It's not for you to view, but they are all stored here. We can see them and we send them on behalf of your son or daughter. So the first thing that we can look at is under the ability section. This is typically where you would find that updated GPA. Again, it's not right at the moment, but under my account. And you could just scroll to the bottom and then you would see your weighted and your unweighted GPA. College is going to be looking for that weighted GPA, and that's just all your core academic classes, your English, math, science, social studies, and foreign language. And that's where you get those extra points if you took a class at the honors level or the AP level. The next part under the About Me you can see, their test scores are stored in here. So when they took their PSATs sophomore and junior year, all that information is in there. If they took the SATs, those scores are in there. AP exams, everything is in there. Again, it's their electronic portfolio, all the things that they've done in high school to help prepare for life after high school. The other thing about me that is going to be really important for them, there's a resume tab. We want them to start making a resume. They don't necessarily need it for their college applications. The Common Application provides a lot of space for your son or daughter to write all the extracurricular activities and things that they've been involved with. Some have more, so then we would want that resume, but you really are going to need that resume for scholarship time. So just do it all now. And it's a great way to brainstorm all the things that you've been doing. And always have them do a rough draft, and then you take a look at it, because you guys remember all the things that they did. They don't. Or they don't feel like it's good to put it on there. So make sure that they do it. So the tool in Nanya is really helpful just to get that brainstorming going and get that resume together, and then you'll already have it done in the springtime and in scholarship time. And then the other part in the About Me, and just to show you, it's really more for them, but under surveys from your school, we require all the seniors to fill out, regardless of what their plan is, their senior college planning survey, so they know what their plan is. They're the ones that are going to complete this form. You guys can do it with them. It's kind of like a brag sheet. Again, listing all the things that they've been involved with inside and outside school. And then, if there was anything else that they would want highlighted in a letter of recommendation, we write a letter of recommendation for every single one of our students. So we really use this as that brag sheet, that guide, so please feel free to go ahead and add anything you want with them. I'd probably say start here, because this is only for us to see, and then do your resume, because this will be the good first brainstorm, and then make it a little bit more formal in that resume. So under the self-discovery tab, this is where all of those interest inventories are stored. So we can just take a quick peek at how about personality. This is the interest inventory that they take in their sophomore year. It's a pretty in-depth interest inventory. You can see exactly what their report was, what their personality type was, what does that mean? And then what they do after they take the interest inventory, it gives them a whole list of different career choices that would be best matched to their personality. And then what they are responsible for doing is choosing at least 5, 3 to 5, but we say 5, that they would have more interest in exploring later on. And you can see all of that under, they will give you some other recommendations, but all right there, so they will read about it. What do you need to do that job? How much money do you make? You can click on any of them. Gives you an overview. So again, doing that exploration of what do I want my future to look like? And then it's the next step of how do I get there? So if all of the information, if you go up to the top, it will store under careers. You can see under the favorite careers and classes, it's that part. So these are the ones that your child has identified as career choices that they have interest in based on the interest inventories that they took. All of that is stored there. So I would recommend just logging on and taking a look at all of this. You can't screw anything up. You can't delete anything. So it's like you can't, no harm, no foul. Just go in there and take a look and see what they've been doing. When we get to the, we've also last year with them that we started doing some, okay, how do we get that next step? So if we go under the colleges tab, they should probably have a couple different college ideas in there. Maybe that could even include a 2-year college. A lot of those post-secondary training programs are also housed at a community college like Massasoit. So these are going to be some of the schools that they have identified of having some interest in. If we click on any of them, we can look at Framingham State. This will give you an overview. So this information is input from, that they extracted from Framingham, so they also pay a fee to be partners with Nalliance. So you can get, kind of an overview of where do I stand, and this is really when we're talking about making that list of schools. What's my reach school? What's my probable school? What's my safety school? This is going to be the best tool to decide that, because since all of that information is stored, again, that electronic portfolio, your GPA and your test scores, now you can kind of see, hey, how do our students from Whitman Hanson do applying to Framingham State? And how do I compare? So on the admissions tab, we can see, you can see how many students have applied over the years. how many were accepted and how many enrolled. And the best one is the scattergram. This is actually every single student that has applied since 2010, and what their decision was. And again, it's just purely based on GPA and SATs. It doesn't consider all the other extra things that they've done. Your son or daughter will always be that blue circle. It's a little bit hard to see in this graph because it's with all those green check marks, and those green check marks mean that those students with similar GPA and SAT scores were accepted. So I would look at this data and say, hey, this is a pretty good school for me. This is a good match. I would probably put that in my safety school type category. You can always scroll through all those tabs. You won't take up your time, but again, get in there and it will give you all the information about the school. I would just always caution you to always make sure that you refer to the college website. This is a great tool to use, but all the updated and most accurate information is always going to be on that specific college website. So, open up a couple tabs when you're doing some of this. You can, if they don't have any schools in here, you can certainly look up and do a search. I typically do the advanced search under the colleges tab. And over to the left, the kids do a lot of the super match. It's really fancy for me, so I like to keep it simple and do the advanced search to get the same information. But you can do a search based on all of those top kind of categories: location, type, student admissions, athletics, majors, costs. I would pick maybe 2 to 3. I wouldn't fill out the whole thing because sometimes it filters too much. So, location, they usually have a pretty good idea of where they want to go. In the beginning of senior year, it is as far away as possible. And then come March, they are living in your basement and commuting, and that's totally okay. So don't be afraid that they're, set on, to go to California and not really sure if that's really realistic for your child. And for some kids it is, right? But you know your child best, and you know where they're going to feel the most comfortable. And really this is going to be that next chapter, that next phase. So whether they are at Bridgewater or they are at UNC or they are at Santa Clara, it's going to be a transition for them. So you know them and do those visits with them so they can get that feel to figure out, okay, I can actually be 20 minutes away, I can be 20 miles away, I can be 2,000 miles away, and I'd be okay. And what does that look like? How much time can I come home? Can I realistically, if I'm going to California, maybe it's just Christmas time that you're coming home. Are you okay with that? Is that going to work for you? So that's a really great, it's all the things to think about. And it's good to have a good list, but we really want to, and they should have already had a really good list from their junior year. Now we want to kind of start chipping that down. You get 4 excused absences for college visits per year. So we really encourage those college visits. So obviously with your work schedules, you guys got to figure out what's going to work best for you. But sometimes, maybe it's a long weekend, there's a lot of open houses, information sessions. There's still a lot available online, but you really want to get that feel. As cheesy as it is, you truly know, you get that feeling of, hey, this is the place for me. Or you know right away, it's totally not the place for me, let's go on to the next. So again, all of this information is housed in here. If you need help connecting into your son or daughter's account, if you have an older child, it's still the same username and login that you had for them. We will just make sure that you guys are connected. If you forgot about it, just let us know. And then if we want to just maybe, you can even just type a search, like we'll do Boston College, for example. This one is a good one to use because it is a fairly competitive school. So if we take a look at that scattergram under the admissions tab, and then we look to see, okay, well now we can really see that blue me very clearly because I'm not in any sea of green, right? I am in a lot of red X territory. So does this mean I shouldn't apply to Boston College based on my GPA or SAT scores? Certainly not. But now I know realistically where I stand and that this would be a reach school. So then I should stop and pause and think, oh, okay, what else can I do to help booster up my application? And I'm going to go to the Boston College website. What programs do they offer? I'm definitely going to make sure that I register for a college tour. Can I sit in a classroom? Can I meet with an admissions counselor? Do they do interviews? Most schools don't, but some do. Sometimes it's an alumni interview. So I would kind of, go back old school, green go, red stop and just take a look and see what else can I do, but also be realistic about where I stand and know that that's appreciable. Doesn't mean it can't happen, it just means that it's gonna be a little bit harder. Back on the home page, and it is the next slide, so we'll be able to skip right through it, but if we scroll down to the bottom, the other, this is maybe one of my favorite post-secondary planning website, is the Occupational Outlook Handbook. So the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics pulls all that data for you. So not only do we want our students to find a job and a career that they're going to be happy with, but we want to make sure that that job still exists. Because as we know, it has changed so much, and especially with COVID, everything really in the workforce has really changed. So we want to make sure that they're preparing for a job that is also going to be there. So they have already done that for you. I like to go into the, let's go to the healthcare. That's pretty typical of, or pretty common of what our students want to, a field that they want to go into. So this will give an overview. Again, all this information is also stored in Naviance as well, but sometimes just looking at it differently. So it's going to give you the quick facts right away. So what's the annual average salary? It will give you quick, typical entry level. So what type of prep? Because that's what we're doing right now. How do I get that job? Well, it's telling me right now that I need a bachelor's degree to become a registered nurse. Okay, and then what is that job outlook? It's 6%, so it's as fast as the average. The average, I think, goes up until about 10, and then after 10, that's where it's exploding. So, okay, so this is pretty good for me. I know I need to go get a bachelor's degree, I need that 4-year degree, but I'm not really sure I want to do 4 years. I just did all that schooling through COVID. I'm not sure if this is what I really want to do. I don't know if I want to make a commitment, but I do want to work in that kind of field. So I can check on the similar occupations tab, and it will give me a whole other list of different career choices, still within that nursing healthcare field that might be a little bit more suited for myself. I can look at the medical sonographer. I think that might be kind of cool. What do I have to do? That's like that X-ray ultrasound technician. I can see right away associate's degree. Okay, so now I know that's just 2 years. So it's 2 years, it's faster than average, it's a 10% rate increase. The average salary is pretty comparable, right? So now I only need to do 2 years of education, so that's 2 years of less loans that I have to take out to do a job in a similar career choice that I really like and that what I want to do, but it actually fits my needs a little bit more because I don't want to spend another 4 years in school. 2 years sounds a little bit more reasonable to me. I want to live close to home. Montessori has a fabulous program, and I think this makes, this is a better fit for me. So it really gives them, and me even, that just kind of overview of what are really all of my options. And it doesn't mean I can't continue my education and go to school. Oftentimes getting a job in a hospital setting, they continue to provide opportunities for their employees to continue and advance in their education. So that might be a better choice. Because let's face it, it costs a lot of money to go to college. I think, what was it, Boston College was like $70,000 now per year. Per year, $70,000. Like that is just a lot of money. So we really need to be wise consumers in this process too. Obviously, we want the best for our children. We want them to have as much as everything they can. Sky's the limit, but we also have to be realistic about what that looks like. And using this information too to see how much money am I going to be making. Because can I realistically pay back my student loans with this job? If I can't, then that might not be the right college that I should be going to. I should be looking at an alternative choice. So those are the 2 best websites I would say that you guys take advantage of. It's what we work with your child as well. It's a lot of great information there. It is overwhelming, but just do one thing at a time. And we're here, we're all happy to work with you for all of that. And then we will go to Mr. Murphy in a minute.
As Mr. Murphy makes his way out here, I just wanted to speak briefly about students with disabilities. That was one of the questions that we got from parents. So if your child has a disability and they have an IEP, my best advice is to work very closely with the counselor about your secondary options that will work. Because sometimes there are differences in the requirements that Mr. Murphy's going to talk about in a minute. So when we get to SATs, most of the time if the child has an IEP and has testing accommodations, we've already applied for those, and they can get accommodations on the SAT. Sometimes there can be accommodations in terms of requirements for colleges too, in terms of, maybe SATs won't be required for them. But again, it's really important to work with your school counselor on that, and we, know that there are some schools that have disability programs, some just have disability services, most have disability services for all students. But again, just know that if your child does have an IEP, and you're concerned about that, work closely with your school counselor who can help you with that.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm Mr. Murphy. Sorry, I was hiding in the back or shutting the door when Mrs. Carrigan first introduced me. But what we're going to talk about right now is the high school transcript and sort of how it's used in the college admissions process. It kind of goes without saying that the transcripts along with the high school diploma that we're all hoping to get at the end of the year are probably the two most important pieces of paper that you can get when high school have come out of high school, because it really is that ticket on to whatever your next step is, whether it is a four-year college, going to the military, going to a trade. So without getting, diving in too much into what the transcript is, it really just is that snapshot of how our child has done over their 4 years in high school. Next week, we will be in senior English classes. It won't be a complete transcript. The kiddos will only have freshman, sophomore, and junior year because the transcript holds final grades, and obviously they just started, so we don't have those in senior year yet. But what you can see on it is, the weighted and unweighted GPAs up here at the top that we've already talked about. Weighted being all the core academic classes that your kids have taken over their 4 years, math, science, English, foreign language, social studies, those kinds of things. But this is one of the most important pieces of the college admissions process, because when college might bring up your kid's application, they'll see the name, and then they'll probably look at the transcript next, right? How did Mr. Motto do in his 4 years at Williamson? So the kiddos will get this next week, and if there's ever any questions about it, let us know. But GPA that they'll get is the most up-to-date one, so they will be able to see that, and then hopefully soon, hopefully not next week. One thing to think about is requirements to get into college. Luckily for your kids here at Whitney Hanson, our graduation requirements here are in line with what it takes to get into one of the state colleges and universities, so Bridgewater State, Worcester State, and UMass systems. So kids are taking 4 years of English, they're 4 years in math. They have 3 years of sort of lab-based science or chemistry, biology, physics, those types of courses. They're taking social studies courses. At Whitney Hanson, we require 12 credits or around 3 classes, in U.S. history being 2 of those. And our foreign language requirement is 2 years. So you can know that by the time your student graduates in May, they have what they need, not only to meet graduation requirements, but then also to get into, or at least have a chance to get into a state university. Private colleges are a little bit different, sometimes more competitive colleges, let's say the BCs, Northeasterns, those types of schools in the world. They might be looking for 4 years science. Sometimes they might even want kids to have 5 science classes depending on what they're in. Or they might want 3 or 4 years of foreign language. So it's something to kind of think about as you're looking at schools. We've already sort of talked on it, we've been talking about it. When you go to college tours, always ask. I always have kids double check even when they're starting as young as sophomores or juniors to be like, hey, if you have a college in mind, tour it, see what they need, and then see how we can get you there in the next couple of years. But it's just something to know that by the time they're graduates, they'll be able to get into, or have a good chance of getting into one of the Massachusetts state schools. Something to think about is traditionally, state schools run on this sliding scale, which, can this jump a little bit? We'll get to it. Mass state schools run on a sliding scale, so typically, historically what it would be is the higher your kiddo's GPA is, the lower their SAT score would have to be in order to be looked at for admission. So, if me, Mr. Murphy, had a 2.0 GPA and I was applying to Bridgewater State would be looking for at least 1180 on my SAT scores. One of the things to think about, though, is the fact that a lot of schools now are moving towards being test optional, so you don't necessarily need SAT scores as part of the admission process. And that should be, you might not need them, but one of the things that we always stress to kids is always ask. There is a website that is the fairtest.org that shows a list of schools that are test optional across the country. I always have my kids double check the schools because although it might be listed on the website, I'm neurotic and get very anxious about things, so I want to hear it from an admissions person from that specific school to say, yes, we are test optional. And sometimes what you might find is, I'll use Bridgewater State, for example. It's not a real example, but let's say Bridgewater State had a nursing program. The school might be test optional, but the specific program that your kid's trying to apply to might require the SATs. So it's just something to always ask for more information. You don't get caught by surprise. And with COVID and everything that's happened in the past couple of years, more schools are moving away from requiring SAT. But it is something that just wait.
Quick question, man. Yes. We went to a couple of colleges, at the same time, Bridgewater State College, and they both said that they didn't really require the SAT, but the guidance counselors should send them if they're good. If they're not really good, if they don't really send them. But it would help if they would do it to send them.
Yeah, I mean, if I take the SAT and I feel like I've done a really good job on them, I got the score that I was hoping for, you can decide to send the SAT scores. If it makes it, like especially if you're applying to a competitive program, it just helps. If a school sets up a test optional, they won't use them against you if you're not sending the scores.
They say you guys are now.
Yeah, and we can always take a look at it with your students, and then ultimately it would be sort of a family decision, and you as a family set the SAT scores, so if it is one of those things that you decide to do, you can send those scores.
And just to clarify, it's the student who sends their SAT scores, we do not. So they submit them directly through the College Board, their business, obviously. So you get 4 free score reports when you register for the exam, and they're good for 10 days until after. However, you don't get your scores back until after those 10 days. So you can choose to send them, or after you look at them, it's a fee. It's typically like $12 per school, but we would certainly advise you and help you just make that decision, but we actually are the ones to submit that. That would be a little bit later, so I just want to clarify that, but that's definitely something that would really help, especially when we looked at that reach school. Hey, my SAT scores are pretty good. Let's send them, definitely. So let's report them on our Common App, and let's get them official scores through the College Board.
We didn't take them last year, so now and start a project, they can, okay, so we're taking them this year.
Yeah.
And they actually, the 2 schools that we visited, they both said that essay is really needs a lot now. So I don't know if that's.
Yeah, we're talking about that too. Absolutely, especially with COVID and all the things that have
Right,
happened.
they said that was a big thing.
Yep. Because you're more than a number, right? We want to know who you are, and that's your chance to see that through an essay.
And one other question, Ms. Clunis, like, you guys, Ms. Clunis, is someone going to be taking over for her? Unfortunately, she's out with medical, but is someone going to be taking over for her?
Yeah, we've hired somebody who's going to start Monday.
Oh, I was just curious, this is a big thing.
So we realize that. So what I mentioned when we started is that we work as a team, so we all help. And if we need to support these new students, we're happy to do that. But we have hired somebody, she starts on Monday, and she has a lot of experience working in college admissions.
I was just confused, I didn't know, I thought I heard October something.
That's okay. Yeah, so we're not sure when she'll be back. She has a very difficult medical family situation. But we will take care of all the kids at Whitney Hanson in her absence. So.
Oh, excuse me. Can you tell me what her replacement, but the name is, just so I can write it down?
Yep, her name is Stephanie Bates.
Bates, thank you.
So one of the other things that we're going to talk about is this idea of the Commonwealth Commitment or Mass Transfer Program. And basically what it is if one, your kid decides to go to one of the 2-year community colleges first, and they meet these requirements over their 2.5 years of being there, they can transfer to one of the state schools through Commonwealth commitment and have things like guaranteed admissions. If they meet these requirements, that's sort of a big thing. You can't just finish at a 2-year school, but if you meet the requirements, you get things like guaranteed admissions, they freeze tuition. It's a great way. Kids do this for many different reasons. One being money. I know, walking in the grocery store, milk's, like $15 a gallon, gas is, you need a second mortgage to take out just to fill your tank every other week. So to save a little bit of money, some kids do that because it just helps. Some kids might do the mass transfer program because, maybe in high school they didn't have the GPA that they necessarily wanted. They go to college, they finish their associate's degree, they bring their GPA up, they have a college GPA, they have credits, they show that they can do it at the collegiate level. And they use a mass transfer program to go to a school like Bridgewater State or even Mass Boston. It's a great program that a lot of kids are starting to capitalize on more and more as the years go by. But it's just something to think about because college is expensive. There's a lot of get into the finances piece a little bit. But it's just a great way, one, to save money, and then if your ultimate goal is to go to Bridgewater State, then you save money, you get the credits you need, you go to Bridgewater for 2 years after, and then you're done. And then you save money, you get plus points, and you don't have to be worried about that. So with the SAT and ACT, I've already kind of talked about this a little bit, but the idea that a lot of schools are test optional now. This is the website that I mentioned, fairtest.org. If you were to go on to fairtest.org, you can find the list of schools in Massachusetts, in Connecticut, wherever it is across the country, that are test optional. So the schools that don't require SAT scores as part of the admissions process. And it is fairly up to date, but like I said, Mr. Murphy can be very anxious at times about things like this. And I like to double check and triple check things all the time. So if you were to check this and you find out that Bridgewater State or South Bay or one of these other schools is on this list, and you haven't gone on the tour yet and haven't heard them say they're test optional, reach out, find out, the more you know, it just makes you a little bit, more comfortable, I guess. But just know that a lot of schools are moving towards being test optional. For anybody that hasn't signed up for the SAT, one thing to know is that Whitney Hanson is a test center on October 1st.
Yeah, I just checked the list last night. We have about 20 spots. So if your child wants to take the SAT October 1, they should go on and register on the College Board website. And we just choose our test center. When we're full, though, we are full. So once those spots are gone, that will be it.
So check it out. If you can get in, great. I know some kids like to take tests in some other places, so it just helps. But there are other test centers as well, so if you can't get into it, you have to take a look. Maybe there's another one that's local that makes sense as well. And we also talked about that idea that you can get those for free scoreboards and things of that nature. One thing to note with the SAT and ACT, security, and I'll talk about the ACT in a second, is if you don't have a ticket and you don't have a picture ID, they will not let you into the exam. So always make sure that any information that when you sign up for the SAT on the College Board, any information that you put on there matches exactly what your kid is. For acceptable ID pictures, the big things to take away is they should be of just the kid. Don't have them have a sports picture, not a big group of friends or family photo. I always tell kids that, behind, or not just anybody, behind any great selfie that someone posts, there's about 1,000 of the same pictures in the camera roll. Make it be that perfect selfie that it's clear that, the student is exactly who they're supposed to be. No hoods, no pets, no friends. The student themselves and have it match everything on their ticket. ACT, I won't really dive into it too much. It's just another standardized test. It tests kids a little bit differently. And registration process is very similar. A lot of schools may not require the ACT score. Some people use it just as another option if they want it. Or want it. So now, the fun part, having to pay for college, Mr. Meyer.
All right. And obviously, a lot of you are taking notes, which is great. Many of you, it's your first time going through this, so I'm going to be doing a lot of terminology and lingo, so if you have a question, write it down, and then maybe just ask it at the end so we can move along. But the two biggest phrases or words, I guess, that we want to talk about, first of all, if your child is on free or reduced lunch, we do have some fee waiver opportunities as far as SAT fee waivers, AP exams later in May, that there are fee waivers available, so you can inquire with your child's counselor about fee waivers if you have the free and reduced lunch program. The two terms I want you to write down, acronyms if you will, kind of like an alphabet soup. First one is FAFSA, the letter F, A, F, S, A, FAFSA. And that stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Now, obviously, some of you, you have an older child that maybe is in college already, but again, many of you, it's your first time through, so that's going to be a very important document to fill out. You can start filling it out in October, and you will be using the 2021 taxes. It's a prior year, it's called. Federal law changed a couple of years ago to allow you to already access that information that's already been filled out. The IRS data retrieval system allows you, when you're filling out the FAFSA, to click on that, and then it'll automatically feed in your 2021 tax information to kind of expedite and help you through that process. Now, we have help available. There's help available to fill out the FAFSA. We, Whitman Hanson, have partnered with Mass EdCo out of Brockton, and they will be putting on a Whitman Hanson Families Zoom night on October 13th. So they know that. I think that's very important. I have two sons in college right now, and I took advantage of that service, Mass EdCo. Just before COVID, I physically drove to the Brockton office, and they were very great to help. But they've come to our school for several years, and then the last couple of years, they've had Zoom support programs to help you fill out your FAFSA. And it's very important. Yes, we'll have information on that. Mrs. Carradine will send that out. And again, very important to read the Panther Press. I know it's hard, it takes time from your busy day, but a lot of school counseling information is in the Panther Press, and it comes out weekly. So really, really important, because kids don't bring stuff home with them, notices and things like that. So it's really important that you, like the watermelon analogy, little chunks, little pieces, little bits at a time. We're doing our visits, we're doing our financial aid forms, we're filling out information, we're doing Naviance. There's a lot of different pieces to the puzzle.
That will be in the next Panther Press that will come on Sunday, so you can skip everything else, just look at the school counselors.
Sure, absolutely. Now, scholarships, DFS, again, acronyms, Dollars for Scholars. Now, that will kick in around February or March. We have our local and community and business-based scholarships, and we also have our Dollars for Scholars through Scholarship America, which is a national affiliation. So there's two different vehicles, but that comes later, though. That's going to be around February or March. We'll have information about that. Your child will get information about that to do all of the process, and Ms. Rivera, who Mrs. Carradine talked about earlier, our administrative assistant, is kind of the gatekeeper for that, and that will kick in into the spring. Then we have what's called the CSS profile. Now, the FAFSA is for federal programs, federal aid. Everybody fills out the FAFSA, whether you're going to 2-year school, 4-year school, public school, private school, everybody fills out the FAFSA. Now, for private schools, there's about 250 colleges around the country that are private schools that require an additional form called the CSS profile, College Scholarship Service. I had to do both. I had to do the FAFSA and I had to do the CSS profile. I have a son at WPI, Worcester Polytech, and another son at Babson. That's how they roll. They require the profile. So the profile is, you fill it out if you're going to hopefully qualify for institutional aid. Money from the college. So again, it's worth it. It's a little time, but again, the CSS profile, if you're applying early action, so sometime in November, you should have the profile hopefully filled out at that time of the application time. So again, the FAFSA and the CSS profile, two different forms that have to be filled out to qualify for financial aid. Now, as far as the process, They're seniors, I mean, here they are, they're seniors, they worked hard hopefully in these past 3 years, but senior year is very, very important. Their first quarter grades, their first semester grades are really going to be an important part of the application process. So we're going to work with the counselor, we meet with them, as Mrs. Seelig said, we're going to be going into the senior English classes next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So the information that you're getting right now with the folders and the packets, they're going to bring that home with them next week when we go into their English classes. So now you have a little family meeting. When my kids were seniors, we met every Sunday. That's what worked for us. Every Sunday, we did the checklist, checked off all the things. And, I want to make sure they were on point. Talk to your teachers for recommendations, you're working hard, get your grades, have you done your Naviance searches, let's book some tours and some visits. They should drive the bus. I mean, you're there, you're the parent, you're going to bring them to the, but they've got to take some ownership in this. And it's very important that you work with them and support them, and that's our role here in school, within school, to help and support them. Visiting schools is important, and as Mrs. Seelig did, I love the scattergrams. It's really a good visual of where they kind of plot and sit, because the average student's going to apply to anywhere from maybe 3 to 10, that's the average, 3 to 10 schools. I mean, the lower that they can get that number, the better, but one school might be a little bit of a reach, financially maybe, academically a little bit of a reach, but there are things they can do to kind of improve themselves, and then you want those probables and then some safeties just to be safe, because that's the world we live in now. That it's very competitive. Some schools are really, really competitive. Applications are up across the country in many cases for the more competitive schools. So that's why you want to have a, second, third, fourth option, plan B, C, or D, or whatever you want to call it. October 6th, I think you should bookmark that. October 6th here at Whitman Hanson, we'll have close to about 100 schools from all around the region that you can come and talk face to face, you and your child at our college and post-secondary planning night. We'll also have representatives from the military also at that fair. Big Future is put on by the College Board. It's similar to Naviance. Obviously, I love our program better, but a lot of kids do use Big Future to get programs as far as scholarship information, exploring careers, and how to plan for college, paying for college, getting information on colleges and scholarships. The College Board also has scholarship programs that you can apply to. As far as the essay project, someone mentioned that. I think his comment about the essay, very important part of the process, because statistically, numbers-wise, the whole application process, your transcript and all the, GPA and all that, the essay is your chance to shine, your chance to kind of give your voice as far as what is important and meaningful to you as a student applying to a school. And we worked with the students back in June. We had a representative from Rhode Island College that gave some tips and essay advice. And now, like right now, over the next month or so, students will be in their senior English classes. All senior English classes will be working on this, the essay. And by October 3rd, they'll turn it into us, and we will channel them out to various college representatives over the last 10 years or so. We've been very fortunate to partner with some really good colleges to help our seniors get some really good feedback, free feedback. And we share them with our partners, and hopefully the week of the 17th and the 24th of October, the reps will come back, give feedback and critique to our students in all the English classes, so that, if a student has an early action deadline, November 1st, November 5th, November 15th, they'll still have time to make some edits before they upload to the Common App. And then if they have a regular decision deadline, like December or January, I'll get into the terminology in a minute. The different types of decisions, you do have choices. Early decision is somewhat of a binding contract. If you find a school that you absolutely love, this is the school for me, I've got to get to the school, and if you have the credentials and you feel you're a good fit for that school, you visited, then you could apply if you want an early decision. And that's kind of a binding contract, that if you get accepted, you are going, and you aren't applying to any other school. So be mindful of that, early decision, kind of a contract, a binding agreement. Now, early action gives you a little more flexibility. You do have to apply early, usually in November, so you got to hustle to get your credentials out when your application pays out, but you can apply to more than one school. And if you get accepted early action, you don't have to say, okay, I have to go to that school. No, you're free to kind of weigh some of the other offers and see if you get a better deal. So early action, just like early decision, you apply early, and usually by mid-December, you're going to find out just before Christmas break, so it gives you time to plan before that May 1st universal deadline where you have to commit and make that deposit by May 1st. And then regular decision might be like January, February, maybe even a March deadline, so you have a little more time. And sometimes that's a strategy that I'm on the bubble, my GPA isn't exactly where I want it to be, so maybe it gives you time to get those first quarter or first semester grades to boost yourself a little bit, and then look stronger on paper, if you will, to apply at that regular decision deadline. And then rolling admission is just, there's no set deadline, but as applications roll in, usually after November, then they'll give a decision to you, usually within 3 or 4 weeks, rolling admissions until their class is filled for that institution. And now we're going to go to Mrs. Seelan for some Common App information.
All right, we're going to keep this moving really quickly for you. So the Common App is typically what your son or daughter is going to use to apply to their colleges. Again, just check that website, the college website, to see what do they prefer. Do they prefer you to use their application, Common Application, or a different format? Sometimes too, and make sure that, again, where it's really, really, really important for them to check their email, because they took the PSATs. Colleges get that information if they opted into the student search program, which means they may be receiving emails, which they definitely receive emails, but they may be receiving some emails from those colleges that would say, hey, I want you to use this application, it's a preferred application, because you know what, we're going to waive the application fee, and you don't need to submit test scores, and sometimes they waive the essay, sometimes they don't, but just make sure that they're checking in case they got one of those free applications. But the Common App we offer, we will always help, but specifically every Wednesday is, starting at the end of September, is Common App Wednesday, so they can come down during their seminar, during lunch, or after school, and we will help them answer any questions that they have regarding the Common App. In your folder, and also what they will receive, is this pink transcript request form. So where most of the stuff is electronic, we still use paper for this as a just great cross-reference. Because when you add schools into your Common App, it automatically goes into their nuggets. Remember how I said that's how we submit, they kind of merge and marry with one another, and that's how we submit all their data. But that can just be a school that they were thinking about, or maybe you were thinking about, that you wanted to say, hey, we might apply to this school, we're just going to put it there as a check mark, but it's automatically going to show up on our side to submit documentation. So we always refer to the pink transcript request form to know exactly what school your child is applying to. And it's just a great way for us to keep track of that. Gives them a little checklist of exactly what are their responsibilities, what do they need to do, and it's $3 per school. So again, as we use Naviance, that program costs money, and so it's $3 per school, with your pink transcript request form.
In addition to any application fee?
Correct. You submit the application fee on your own through the Common App. And that would be one other tip that I would give you. When you're doing all those college visits and tours, ask if they give a free application. Many times they do. So, and it can't, if they say no, they say no. You already had to pay it anyway, right? So it can't hurt to ask. Always ask. Do I get a free application, or do you have an application code because I came on a tour and I came on a visit? If you did pass once, email them. Email the admissions office. Say, hey, we were there on August 25th. Didn't know if you offered any assistance with application fee waivers.
So SAT also has a fee though, right? Aside from the 4 free submissions.
Correct.
There's a $12 fee for SAT. So does that play into this as well?
No. And it's so expensive, right? So if you just apply to schools, and if we want to keep going for the next slide, your average application fee is anywhere from $50 to even $100. So that's per application. So just like Mr. Armato said, keeping that to like 3 to 10, we've had, I think our record is like 22 schools that we've had some students apply to. That is a lot of money, right? So really this is important, just to take that time, do that research, have that, yes, probable safety reach school options, but really let's be wise consumers about that. Do you really want to go to 10 schools? Probably not. But do you need to apply to 10 schools because you're applying into a nursing program that's really competitive? Yes, you might, right? So that's where we can help you kind of figure that out and see what schools you should be applying to, because it does, all of that adds up, for sure. If you are using one of those early decision or early action deadlines, that pink transcript request form is due to us on October 14th, even if they have a November 1st or November 15th deadline. Like I mentioned before, it takes a little while to get all of these documents all put together, and we write that letter of recommendation. So So they don't need to apply, and this is, they go crazy again, that social media piece, they're all competing with each other, they're all thinking they're applying to all the top schools, and that's not the case, but it feeds that anxiety for them, right? So just say, hey, we do you. That's great that you love your best friend, and this is, you're excited for them, but we do you, focus on you. So you don't have to apply to that school, but we just need to know that you are applying to that school by that October 14th deadline. They still have until the 1st and 15th to submit all of their documents. This also doesn't mean that all of their teacher recommendations are going to be done by that time. They will be done by the deadline. And that's something that gets them really nervous too. So, and understandably so, right? You want to make sure that you have everything in order. We say you have to give everybody at least 2 weeks, a minimum of 2 weeks to give all your teachers, or if you're asking the coach or an employer, whoever you're asking to write you a letter of recommendation, a minimum of 2 weeks in order to be able to do that. It takes a lot of time. You want it to be good and you want it to be personalized, so you just have to honor that. So if they're asking today, I would say just make sure, by the deadline is really when they'll have it done. These are all the responsibilities. What we do, what they do, all of that is in your packet. You don't need to review, you can see that. And also on that green piece of paper that Ruth had talked about before, all of this information is there too. That gives you the quick bullet points. Right now you're getting the one, everything else is in there for you. So again, it's a lot. It is a real lot, and they have to keep on top of their grades and do the best they can and play that sport or work those hours and do all this at the same time. But just chip away at it little by little, just like Mr. Romano said, pick a day. Pick a day that's going to be day. If you ask every day, you're going to get resistance, you're going to get those tears, you're going to get it all. And call us or email us. We're happy to help you with that. But having one day to kind of go through it all is really helpful. Again, we already talked about that resume. You can use the Naviance tool. You can use any type of Google form or any other Word document. It's great for brainstorming and...
Thanks. So we're going to just start wrap this up. So again, resume we talked about, but building Naviance. Word has some good online templates. Canva, which I just discovered has some great templates too. And even though they might not always need it for your applications, because a lot of the Common App, with Veracity, the Common App has a lot of those questions about their activities. It's very important to have during scholarships, okay? When we're applying for scholarships, they ask for a resume for all the local community. A couple things, be aware of online dangers. Social media can be great, social media can be really bad. Like, you need to make sure that your kids' social media is something that they can be proud of, that they'd be happy showing anybody, because colleges, future employers can't check out those things. So if there's something that they're not proud of, that would really embarrass their grandparents or something, you want to make sure that they clean it up. Once it's out there, it's never gone, but you want, from the very beginning, encourage your kids to be really careful about their social media and how they present themselves. And we've seen some interesting things happen over the years with this. Also, be careful about email addresses. Sometimes kids have crazy email addresses that, when they're putting on a college application, probably wouldn't go very well, okay? I can remember I had a picture of a parent one time. It was like sexy mama something, and I'm like, probably, just think of what those email addresses say. All right, if your child is going to play college sports, there's a whole other group of things that they need to do, especially if it's D1 and D2. They need to register for the National NCAA Clearinghouse. And they actually have to set up an account, the transcripts have to be sent there, the scores need to be sent there, and this is a really requirement if your child is a D1 or D2 athlete. And you can ask us, we will help with anything. All right, so wrapping things up. So I guess the message you want to know is that, don't worry, you can do this, okay? I know we just gave you, actually just an hour and a half, we finished this out on time. A lot of information, it might be overwhelming. That's okay. It's okay to get in touch with us, to ask questions, help your kids keep on track, try to relieve the stress, and if you need us, reach out to us. We're happy to help you, and 9 months from now, we'll be graduating. So, we do have an evaluation. You can scan the QR code here. It's in the packet. We also will I'll be sending it to everybody that's registered. It's really important that you give us feedback, because that's what helps us make things better and make sure we give you the information that you want. it's improved programming, and sometimes we've added different sessions because of the feedback that we've gotten. So, I know it's been a long and busy morning. Any questions about all the things that we didn't answer and need more clarification on? Yep.
Because I know you talked about Twitter and Instagram, but is the Panther press that Dr. Jones, that you guys put that, is that enough? Is all the information always going to be on that newsletter?
We always put it out on Panther Press, so that's enough, but if you do use Twitter, I would say no.
I just want to make sure that you don't miss something on Twitter and Instagram. It'll always be, I don't want to look at the social stuff because there's too much junk that you have to scroll through to get through it. So is all the information always on that newsletter?
Typically, you do the Instagram and Twitter, so pretty much you take stuff from the
I
Panther
literally
Press.
copy and paste from the Panther update and put it in social media.
Perfect.
Yep. And I always post it again in their Google Classroom, so they're always getting alerts. And if you feel like you missed something, you guys all talk to each other, just reach out. We're happy to help with that.
I think there's also like a senior Facebook page. Isn't there a senior parent Facebook page? I've seen it. So maybe, I'm not really on that as a parent, but maybe join that too. Any other questions?
Is there a schedule with dates available? The early action deadline is October 14th, October 6th.
Well, it's all in the green paper.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, in the paper that we sent you to at the beginning of the year with the breakfast invitation, a lot of those dates were in there as well.
I also just posted it in the senior. I just went through October, all the September and October dates.
Anything else? Okay, well, and always, you know that you're welcome if you want to set an appointment with your school counselor, with your child, right after school or during school. We're happy to do those individual appointments too if you need some more clarification and assistance. But thanks for coming this morning. Have a good day. And reach